Thank you, everybody, for being here. And Carter sort of said it is FSU week. We're excited. It's always a big moment in our season, and I think this is a huge moment in our season. Really important game for us. Always know it's going to be a battle when you go up to Tallahassee. Florida State is a really improved football team. The way that they're playing defense right now kind of jumps off the tape. Very disruptive up front, challenge everything on the back end. And then obviously offensively, extremely multiple. The ball distribution chart goes to a bunch of different guys. They've got, 8 guys that are, all within 6 or 7 catches of each other in the top 8 of their receiving. Backs run extremely hard. And then obviously with Travis, they've got the legs and what he's been able to do either as a runner or scrambler poses immense problems for the defense. So it's going to be a big time game, and we wouldn't expect it any other way when these two teams get together. We know how motivated that they will be for Saturday, and our guys will be motivated just the same. And with that, we will open it up for questions.
Thanks, Coach. First up, we've got Matt Shodell. Matt, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, I got one of your favorite 2-part questions for you. So the first part is, if you could grade sort of your defense's play overall this year, how close or far away is the defense from putting together the type of whole game you'd expect from it? And then the second part's a little quicker. If you can just sort of update the status of Gervin and BJ Jennings, since I saw they weren't on the depth chart. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Gervin and BJ, kind of like we've had other guys, older guys. It's really tough when you're an older guy and your role isn't what you think it should be. So like some of the other ones we've had, I mean, they'll both move on and not be with us here the rest of the way. So it's next being up for in both those spots. I think, I'm not the one that puts grades in, when you're in the middle of a season, but I think what's been very obvious, and it was pretty evident on Saturday. The word of the year has been consistency on defense. Georgia Tech ran for 40 yards, 135 yards, and they ran it 32 times for 135 yards. They had 4 runs for 136 yards, which means they had 28 runs for -1 yards, and that's not counting sacks. When we do things right, it really looks good. After we went for it on 4th down, didn't get it with about 8 minutes left in the third quarter, 9 minutes left in the third quarter. I don't think they had 20 yards of offense after that. And those are the signs of what a dominant defense can be. But we have made our share of mistakes. And you can't be a great defense and say, accept these 4 plays. And that's kind of been our bug all year. It's been frustrating. We've been working like crazy to get it corrected. Our players don't lose confidence because they see when it's right, it's really right. And so what we're still searching for is our best performance, on defense. And it's never going to be perfect, but I think as a coach, that's what you're always striving to do, is to find a way to get these guys collectively to play their best game. And obviously we're not there yet.
Next, we'll go to Manny Navarro. Manny, go ahead.
Hey, Manny. So obviously, the loss of Gervin and Bradley, particularly, puts more young guys in position to play. I know Ragoni played a few snaps this last game. Curious where the linebacker development is. Obviously, we ask you that every week. Sam Brooks and Avery Huff and Tyreek Austin Cave. Just, are they coming along at any point where we might see them here down the stretch?
Yeah, I think, and I would add Tyler Johnson, to that mix. I think Tyler, I think, Johnson and Trautman, both guys we signed this year's class, we really like, doing good things on special teams, and I think that they're going to have a chance more and more. Right now, Will linebacker, Wayman Steed played excellent on Saturday. Countre played very well behind him. And Corey Flagg played really well in the second half of the game. Ragoni went in there, and actually Ragoni made some really nice plays. The other guys, look, we're and I'll give you a great example. You're prepping guys, you're getting guys ready to play, you're getting guys going. We do a walkthrough the day before the game. Here's the thing: it's when you mention development, the whole team sees development. So we say, okay, hey, we're gonna, the first 2 we run, first 2 blitzes and walkthrough, and you got a guy that he's got to run through A gap and he runs through B gap, and then the second play he's got to run through B gap and he runs through C. Well, that's not a coaching decision. The players are going to look at you and say, "Coach, you can't put that guy in the game," and that's part of just the process. And you got to be able to know what to do. You know, there are positions that are, you know, defensive end, corner, you know, spots like that. Those are usually one-on-one matchup, freak positions. They go cover that guy man-to-man. Hey, go beat that guy in pass rush. The guys in the middle of the field, they got to learn how to fit a piece of the puzzle, and it's not complicated. We've had 3 freshmen start. I'm not, you know, it doesn't matter how old you are, but you got to be able to handle a job, because the other guys are going to say, "Hey, coach, get this guy out of here," because he doesn't know where to go. So, as a coach, you never stop the development, because you continue to push, you continue to strive, try to find new ways to teach, try to make it as simple as humanly possible. I mean, we're playing with 3 true freshman safeties. I mean, I don't know when that's ever happened in college football before, and we're doing it, and there's no excuses because they're freshmen, you know, and T-Rob's doing a great job of getting those guys game ready, but it's a process. And the guys, when they become comfortable with their assignments, that happens at different times. And that's where we're at with the backers, and we go from there.
Thanks.
Next, we'll go to Barry Jackson. Barry, go ahead.
Hi, Manny. I know you're focused on FSU this week, but just one big picture question in your CEO role. Do you think it's likely you all will probably need to add transfer help at linebacker or anywhere in your front 7 this offseason, just from a number standpoint, maybe more impact players defensively, with the anticipation you'll lose some guys in your front 7? I was going to ask you how the process works. Do you want to make sure that you see tape yourself and study tape for a few hours, an hour or so, of every player you might target in the transfer portal? I imagine it stops at your desk ultimately, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you're going to, you know, with where we're at now, you're going to have to look at who's available, and does this person add value to our team? And you're never going to turn down a great player. And yes, I'm of course involved in the evaluation process. I think the biggest trick now in the evaluation process isn't just what they do on tape. You got to do a lot of research. We've been pretty good at the transfer thing here, because we found out the backstories of, you know, what is this guy transferring for? Because we've given these kids an easy way out at times, and they may not always be transferring for the right reasons. And the guys we brought in here, whether it's Osborne or Rambo or DeAndre or whoever, I mean, the list is pretty extensive. We felt that they've been guys that have been leaving for the right reason, and when they came here, they performed. You know, in my mind, they've all performed pretty well. We had guys that we were going to add last year that we wanted to add, and that their film backed up the fact that they added. But then you talk to people around them, you talk to people at the stops that they've been at, and there are red flags that come out. And if you bring those red flags in your locker room, it ain't going to go well. So to me, you're not recruiting a highlight, you're recruiting a person. And you got to be very careful, because when you bring a person in, first of all, anytime you bring a transfer in, the guys in your locker room, they have to say, "Thank God that guy's there." And I think we've been pretty good at that. I think when the transfers have come in, I think our players understand why these guys have come into our locker room, because team morale is everything. But if you bring in a guy and the guy is a problem on your team, you've got 2 issues now. Because number one, you just recruited a problem in your locker room, and now your locker room's a problem because you got a lot of guys who are doing things the right way, and you just brought in a disruptive force. So it's going to be, you know, it's funny you just mentioned, I was talking with a couple of coaches today, it's going to be trickier now than ever, because the amount of kids that are going to be in there this year it's going to smash every record by a lot. And it's going to be really, really hard to do your homework and research to make sure. I mean, think about what the NFL does, right? I mean, think about the background checks that they go through at the combine and on free agency, and all the different ways that they have to kick the tires on someone they get in, and they probably get it wrong half the time, right through the draft process. So it's going to be a massive it's going to be a massive undertaking for everybody in college football going forward with what we've allocated, given these players in terms of the free one-time transfer.
Next, we'll go to Tim Reynolds. Tim, go ahead.
Thanks, Carter. Manny, this is obviously the first time Miami and FSU have played since Coach Bowden and Howard passed. You've talked before about the rivalry and obviously your ties there and all that. I get all that, but these programs, for as much as the outside says one hates the other and vice versa, they've kind of needed each other, you know, throughout the last 40 years or so. How accurate would you say that kind of is? And just broadly, I mean, can you just talk about maybe the respect level that kind of gets lost during hate week that probably these programs have and have had for one another.
No, Tim, what fun is that to talk about, respect?
I know.
No, I think obviously, I think you're onto something. Yes, I've always felt like there has been a competitive respect between the programs. I think not just because of the nature of the games and the great games through the years and how somebody winning a game or losing a game or a field goal going just 6 inches to the right determined maybe who won the national championship that year. But let's be honest, I think where both programs were in the 80s and in the relation to the University of Florida, where there was either Florida not playing Miami or the way that Florida kind of would look down at Florida State, just historically if you look at just the history of the state from when Florida State was first a school in the middle part of last century. So I think the fact that both programs came of age at the same time, they both grew up at the same time, and you couldn't help but grow up under the shadow of the University of Florida, and the Florida being on probation in the mid 80s had a lot to do with some of the recruiting successes that Coach Bowden's first great class really was helped by the fact that Florida had just gone on probation and Miami was kind of doing their thing with Schnellenberger and the state of Miami, and then Coach Johnson coming in here. So I think the fact that they rose up together and then played such amazing games and continued, no matter what league that they were in, to be committed to playing one another, no matter what. I mean, you mentioned Coach Bowden. I mean, how many national championships that he might had they either not played Miami or a kick gone a little bit one side of the post or the other. So I think that respect has always been there, but obviously when the ball kicks off, it's going to be as an intensely fought game as we'll play all year.
One quick follow. Obviously the game has changed quite a bit, but is there like a taproot philosophy or whatever that you took from Coach Bowden and kind of apply it to your everyday? Thank you.
In relation to this game, I'm sorry, or just in
No,
general?
just broadly. I mean, the game has changed. Like, I mean, it's stuff that worked in 91 wouldn't work in 2021. I get that, but I'm just saying, like, the way he handled people, the way he handled the team. Are there things that you learned from him that you still apply in your game?
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing we do is we start every staff meeting with a devotional, and that we did that when Mark Rick was here because Mark did it with working with Coach Bowden, and every coach on the staff takes a turn, and it can be religious, doesn't have to be religious, it can be motivational, but it gives a chance. We've got a lot of great men in our staff room, and it gives them a chance to share something on their heart. Gives a chance to, like Coach Bowden, to put something, Miami football is big and whatever, but God is bigger, and to have somebody that's we can put our, him, the capital H, in charge of our program first, and seek wisdom and guidance there, because that's what Coach Bowden did. I mean, Coach Bowden, for me, was learning under a guy who had won so much, but kept his ego in check because he knew who really was in charge of his life. So yeah, we've tried to keep that the same way here.
Next, we'll go to David Lake. David, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I want to ask you a big picture recruiting question. In a lot of ways, recruiting success is a reflection of on-field success, right? And you guys have won 3 straight games now, but I'm curious, if the actions of your athletic director prior to this 3-game winning streak has made it easy for teams to still negative recruit you. As the recruiting world's pretty cutthroat. I'm just curious if it's hard to recruit in these times, even with a 3-game winning streak.
I would imagine so. I mean, yeah. I mean, if I was coaching at another team, I'm sure our players are getting peppered with those type things. But what we can control right now is winning a game, and that's what we did against NC State, and then Pitt, and then Georgia Tech. And the thing about college football is that it is, where you stand today is temporary, and you can sort of, we have a chance. What we felt like this whole season, we had a chance to write our own story, and no matter what it looked like coming out of the Virginia game or the Carolina game, and so that's what we do. And I think eventually recruits will see that. I mean, I do think if I was watching us play and I was watching some of the young players that are on our team, you kidding me? If I played offense, I'd want to play around with these guys. You know what I mean? And whether it's Tyler or Jake, Jalen, some of the young wide receivers that we have, I'd want to go play for those guys. If I'm on offensive line, I want to go block for those guys. Then on defense, yeah, sure. I mean, I want to be in a secondary with James and Cam and Avante. I want to play defense, next to LT and those guys up front that we have. And I'm just listening to a few of them, and there's a bunch more. So, the players see what's real, it's a strange time for recruiting. I mean, I think some of the things that go into their decision process is a little bit different now than what it was then. They have a lot shorter memory than we think, the recruits of this day and age. And I keep saying this, and I'll kind of shut up on this topic. This ain't gonna be a class like any other. It's just not. It's just, I mean, y'all saw the thing today, the NCAA's, kind of backing out. I mean, we are going, and we're going to college football. I don't know if it's college football 2.0 or 3.0, but we're going there. And this will be a class unlike any other, because what's about to happen in the portal here in the next 4 weeks, I think is going to be transformative. And so it's kind of a shame. There's going to be some high school players that are going to be a little bit edged out at times. I don't know how, unless we change the initial scholarship rules. We don't have enough spots to jam in all the people. And there's going to be players in the portal that are going to be left out. There's going to be some really good players in high school that are going to be left out. They're going to go to a lower level team and have great careers there because there's only so many seats available with the initial scholarships that everybody has to give out right now.
Do you think those actions showed like a lack of understanding how everything impacts recruiting, or do you think they just didn't count on you winning 3 straight games?
Oh, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. It's not for me to judge, and like I said, that's now been 3 weeks ago, and we have to go beat Florida State this week because it's Miami, Florida State, and that would be true if the kick went in against Virginia or didn't go in, or we don't get a pass batted down against them. It's Florida State week. We got to go beat these guys.
Next, we'll go to Tom D'Angelo. Tom, go ahead.
Thanks, Carter. Hey, Manny. Manny, you mentioned Jordan Travis. Both these programs kind of resembled each other in this year, in that you both came out of the early season issues and early season funk when the 2 quarterbacks got established. And I know Florida State's lost 2, but they were ahead of Clemson with a few minutes to go up there, and he didn't play last week. Can you talk about that and how both these teams were boosted, invigorated, whatever, by these quarterbacks, and then the obvious how important that position was to get a leader, get a guy that both teams seem to be trusting now?
Yeah, well, I see the similarity, and I'm not sure that this isn't going to be more of a common theme in college football. We're so used to the way that things have always been, and we love our preseason polls, and we love kind of looking at the schedule and seeing how it's all going to sort out. And in the era of transfers and in the era of kind of how rosters can kind of change over so quickly, teams are going to find their identity through the course of the year, some for the better and some for the worse. With Florida State, it's obvious for the better. I mean, you look at what they've done defensively. I mean, they've almost flipped their entire roster defensively from the team they played a year ago, and they are playing really, really hard, and they're playing very, very well on defense with a lot of guys that we didn't play against a year ago. And sometimes that's not going to happen, right there at week 1. Finding your identity on offense, who the quarterback is, those type of things. I mean, look at us this year. I mean, yeah, first 3 games we knew we had Derek, but Derek, it's crazy that he still was grinding off of a insane turnaround recovery from a major knee surgery. So obviously we were not hitting on all cylinders against Alabama and then against App and Michigan State. But man, look at Charleston Rambo now. I mean, sure we felt we knew what we had in September, but this is what happens. Guys emerge, and we didn't have Jalen in September. Guys emerge, the offensive line has come together as the season's going on, as our season has gone on. And I just think that's a thing. It's so easy to overpraise or over criticize during the season. I get it. It makes total sense because we set the expectation of a team should not be here and teams should be here. I think we're still at a record for 42 teams ranked that have lost to unranked teams this year, including in a big number again of top 10 teams that have lost to unranked teams. We had a couple last weekend. So we have tried to keep our team focused on, let's just get to playing our best ball in November. And I think by every metric, our best game is still out there. I think our players know that. We had some adversity a week ago on Saturday that kept that game a lot closer than it needed to be. Players saw that, and we had the chance to correct that after a win, which is big. And that's what yesterday was about, and this week will be about continuing to find a way to what we like, keep doing it, and what we don't like, keep trying to fix it.
Next we have Kobe Price. Kobe, go ahead.
Hey, Manny, I got two questions for you. One, kind of going off the recruiting questions. You keep mentioning how this year is going to be so different because of all the change with college football. As a staff and as a coach, how do you balance, there are going to be some guys, especially the 2019, 2020 guys, who may be guys who have more eligibility just because last year, didn't count against them. So how do you balance going from looking at transfers of maybe we can get a guy more immediately who can help us out, or getting a transfer of, this guy's basically a development guy because he's almost, almost like a freshman for us because from the eligibility standpoint.
Well, what's crazy, you asked that. That's kind of how you used to think through it, right? Okay, where's my room at? Do I need an older guy? Do I need, when we brought in KJ Osborne, we had a bunch of young wideouts. We needed an old head that could kind of set the tone, how to work, whatever. But here's the thing now that you don't know, and you still don't know, and no one knows, is normally you'd say, okay, hey, we're graduating one, this guy might go pro, but we've got these guys that are all coming back. Well, now you may have three of those guys that go in the portal themselves, right? So it's so hard because it's all happening in real time, and signing day is like 6 weeks away. And we have made it so hard on ourselves to really know what you're replacing. You used to know, oh, I've got a senior running back, I've got a junior, a sophomore, and a freshman, and the junior may or may not, or whatever. I think he's so we got three. Let's go get another freshman running back next year out of high school, and we'll be good to go. And I'm just using running back as an example. It's really happening in real time right now, where you've got to be able to replace your roster. Every college football player is a free agent on a 1-year contract that they don't even have to see the year through, right? That is a true statement. That's where we're at right now. So until you know who you're retaining, which is really tough now, because if I'm not playing in year 1 or year 2, I'm not happy with my role, I got a lot of incentive to try to go somewhere else. It's easier to try to change my circumstance around me than maybe to change, internally what's going on. That's why I keep saying it's very, so you got to, long-winded answer, but Kobe, the whole point, you've got to be able to make sure you've got some numbers, because if all of a sudden, if you lose your developmental guys, you lose some of your youth, man, can you replace that with freshmen, or, you got to bring in an older guy? I mean, it's all happening in real time.
And my second one, I know you've touched on this also in recent weeks, but Derek did an interview, I believe, over the weekend or last week, basically confirming that, he's looking to move on from college football as a player. I guess, personally or professionally, what has he meant to you, but also what has he meant to the program and, the time he's been here or there?
I think Derek means everything to our program. With where we were at, coming out of 19, and just we needed not just, and I've said not just what he was as a player. We should never forget the season he had and the records he broke and what he did as a quarterback for us a year ago. And after where we've been was just the ups and downs of some quarterback play. But he changed our locker room, the way he worked in the weight room. He inspired everybody, provided us with such great leadership. Changed the room, so we're all watching Tyler Van Dyke right now, but Tyler got to watch Derek. You got to watch Derek at the meeting every day. You got to watch him take notes. You got to watch the way that he worked. You got to watch the way he practiced for a year, and Jake's got to watch the same thing. So for those guys now, we have a fresh one guy coming in, and now they get this sort of pass it down. So Derek being the first person, really transformed our program where he was the right person, right time. I'm somebody's going to let himself with a really special player, special person. Derek getting next level.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, I also have two questions. Just in regards to Gervin and BJ, and you kind of dealt with it with D and Mark earlier, but just what has this process been like for you as roles change? Like you have touched on earlier, people can be unhappy, but you got, just this whole process of being a head coach that you've kind of dealt with, and as guys, other guys playing well and your guys are getting wins. How would you explain all of that, what it's been like?
It's very difficult because the coach wants the best for all of your guys, and everybody wants to play. And look, the young ones that are playing, they want to play, and sometimes they don't know what they know. They haven't been in there yet, and they think they know, and a lot of times they don't really know. But the older ones who have played, and then they're not playing as much, that's really, really hard on them. It's kind of not the way it's supposed to go. So you're always sympathetic to them, but also you have to do what's best for the team. And you want everyone to be able to embrace their role. But that's tough. And what you used to be able to do is you would finish out the season, and then who knows what would happen now. But now the players believe that they've got incentive to try and get into the portal early. I think that will help their recruiting, and that's of course not proven to be true or not true. And we can decide as a collective to have a transfer window. We could make the rules anybody want to. We say, okay, hey, listen, we're all going to play the season, and after the season, we're going to have a time where all the transfers will enter in right here, and then it can be transfer season like they do in, whether it's like European soccer, but it's really tricky now because you've got that, as I say, you have a trap door available now to your team during the season. So I sympathize with all the kids. I want what we want them is what's best for all of them. But the game of football, when you got 85 on scholarship and 11 on the field at one time, there's only so many snaps that can go around. And so you got to do what's best for the team. You try to get everyone to be able to play the role as much as possible, but if they don't want to do it, you wish them the best going forward, and you do whatever you can to help them with what's next for them.
And then after last game, Nesta spoke that he's 3-0 against Florida State, hoping to go out with a bang. It kind of hinted that maybe he won't be back next year. We didn't get a chance to follow up, but do you expect him, even though he'll have eligibility, or do you think he's going to move on after this year?
Oh, I don't. To me, if he's saying going out with a bang, you probably answer your own question, but we're not at a point yet where we're sitting down and really having those conversations with guys. I don't know. The COVID year was given. We do have some guys that I think are making some hints that maybe they will come back, but remember, some people in college football only played like 5 games last year. We played a season, so a lot of our guys who have played all 4 years, I don't think they see themselves as juniors. I think they see themselves as seniors. So, as we normally tend to do with all of our draft eligible guys, we get into November, get on the other side of this game, we'll start to sit down, kind of have some conversations, show them some feedback from the league of where they stand, those type of things. So.
We got time for a couple more. We'll go to Ken Segura next. Ken, go ahead.
Manny, I was wondering about the game on Saturday. You guys had a couple big plays, notably the second touchdown and then the flea flicker where you seem to take advantage of kind of getting some coverage busts in the secondary. And I'm curious, Georgia Tech has had some challenges there. How much did your coaches, try to take advantage of that as they put the game plan together?
Well, the one was a flea flicker. That's kind of a trick play, right? We hit a flea flicker the week before and dropped it. So that's just a hard play on a defense. I don't trying to think of the other one that you're talking about.
The 35-yard touchdown into the end zone on when it was, I think it was 3rd and 12, 30, like through into the corner of the end zone.
I'm trying to remember the scenario of
I think you had trips or
oh yeah, no, well, okay, no, that's just man coverage. We were going fast. It was man coverage. We just had 2 guys switch, 2 guys that are covering 2 guys. And that just happens. And the guy, by the way, that's running the route is like really, really good. So, Georgia Tech, they know what they're doing on defense. To me, that was an example of getting tempo, getting people, not, with their cleats screwed in the ground on a 3rd down can create a little bit of, pre-snap indecision. You've got 2 guys stacked and then they kind of switch places and, 2 guys hesitate for a second and that's all it takes. And, Tyler makes a great throw to Rambo. So, again, that's more of an execution error than I wouldn't classify that as a coverage bust per se.
Thank you.
And we'll wrap up with Susan Miller-Degnan. Susan, go ahead.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? You've been down most of the Zoom. I haven't heard. Manny, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can start all over if you need us to.
Yes, just call me after. Okay, listen, I'm wondering about Jared Harrison Hunt, what his status is. I don't know if he went back and played, but I know he was limping heavily off the field at the end of the second quarter.
Jared looked a lot better yesterday.
How's he doing?
he looked a lot better after the game, and we expect him to be available for Saturday.